and welcome to Fintech Insider Insights. My name is David Brear. I'm the Group CEO here at 11FS. In today's episode, we're going to be asking, how are financial services players using blockchain? For anybody who thought the excitement around blockchain was potentially waning, PayPal's launch of a stablecoin has been something of a bit of a shot in the arm for the industry. The push into tokenized assets by one of the biggest payment providers over the last 2 decades shows that blockchain technology products are very much becoming the norm for financial institutions. So if you're listening to this in a sense of curiosity, or maybe even some skepticism, then you'll be really interested to hear how tradFi is really actually using blockchain in the real world. In this show, in association with our friends at Fireblocks, we've put together a panel of amazing experts to discuss how do you decide what blockchain solution might work for you? How do you actually go about building something with it? And what does success actually look like in this space? We'll discuss all of this and much, much more on today's show. But first, a few brief messages. Don't go anywhere. This is Fintech Insider After Dark. We are breaking out of the studio and bringing it to the community. It's a live recording of the Fintech Insider podcast featuring your favorite hosts and big name guests.
Well, thank you very much for having me back.
Join us and become a certified Fintech Insider. Whether it's beers in London or pizza in New York, catch up with Fintech geeks and make new friends across the financial services ecosystem.
This is packed out, right? It's standing only.
We are bringing After Dark to the Village Underground in London on the 20th of September. Click the link in the podcast description or visit 11fs.com/afterdark. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Good night. A lot of you know 11FS for our chart-topping podcasts, our events, videos, reports, and a bunch of other cool stuff that we do. But what a lot of you don't know is that this is just all our side hustle. We do so much more than that. At 11FS Ventures, we're partnering with ambitious businesses around the world to design, build, and launch truly digital financial services. We are building banks, shaping new propositions, and growing existing offerings that change the fabric of financial services. And our design, research, strategy and engineering experts are working to improve your customers' relationship with money. To find out a little bit more, check us out at 11fs.com/ventures. All right, let's get started. As always, I'm joined by a panel of outstanding guests who can shed some light on this question that we've kicked off. First off, though, it is a great pleasure to be joined by Michael Stoloff, who is the CEO of Fireblocks. Welcome to the show, Michael. Can you give a bit of a background to yourself and also Fireblocks, please?
Yeah, sure. David, thanks for having me on the show. So I've been the CEO of Fireblocks for the last 5 years. Before that, I actually spent most of my career in the cybersecurity space before starting Fireblocks. And what we do at Fireblocks is we provide an infrastructure for financial institutions and, broadly speaking, other types of Web2 businesses that are essentially leveraging blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. So everything from wallet infrastructure to rails to transfer and sell the transactions through the Fireblocks network. And last but not least, a set of capabilities to tokenize the asset.
Very, very cool. It's amazing how many people sort of come through that trajectory of cyber or underpinning either infrastructure or software security into blockchain. I mean, it seems like a natural progression given all of the attributes of blockchain, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially as you're dealing in the infrastructure levels of the blockchain, there are a lot of sort of cryptographic problems that need to be solved. And those cryptographic problems are essentially cybersecurity problems, right? So people that spend a bunch of time in cybersecurity, they inherently have a pretty good base to understand and solve for those problems. This is, broadly speaking, how I got into the space.
Very cool. Well, we'll definitely unpick that as we go on. Thank you very much for joining the show. We also have a Fintech Insider debut for Lisa Wade, who is the CEO over at DigitalX. Welcome to the show, Lisa. Can you give everybody a little bit of a background about yourself and also DigitalX?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. DigitalX is an Australian listed company, and in crypto and blockchain terms, I guess our OG status comes from being apparently, according to Citigroup, the first listed company in the world to have Bitcoin on their balance sheet and our balance sheet. And we still have Bitcoin on our balance sheet, and we're the only Australian listed company that does. I do believe companies around the world have caught up. And we also run 3 crypto funds across different various parts of the continuum. We have a Bitcoin fund, we have a crypto top 20 fund, and we also have a newly launched real world asset tokenization fund, which we have taken on the MiCA definition of asset reference tokens because we like the acronym ART. And that's sort of us in a nutshell. We've got another couple of businesses, but for the context of this conversation, we are a Bitcoin balance sheet company listed, and we run 3 funds.
Very, very cool. I mean, as an investor in this stuff, you see the good and the bad of it. So we'll definitely unpick that as we go as well. And finally, it is a welcome return to Fintech Insider for Alla Presenti, who is the co-founder and head of finance at Moniflo. Welcome to the podcast, Alla. How are you doing?
Hello, David. Thank you very much. I'm good, and thank you for having me. And hello to everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today.
And for anybody who doesn't know Moniflo, what do you guys do? What's your background?
At Moniflo, we are all about empowering every individual, regardless of their background or expertise, to dive into the world of sustainable investment funds. We firmly believe that investing with purpose should be accessible to all, and that's why we've created a platform that combines financial growth with values that matter. We are based in Luxembourg, and we plan to go very soon live. I'll tell you more about us throughout our discussion.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you for joining us again. As always, our producers have done a wonderful job of pulling together a great panel of people who really get this subject matter. So we probably should dive in and use the time wisely. Maybe if we start the conversation by looking really at the very early stages, finding a blockchain solution that fits or really works for what you're hoping to do. I mean, it feels like about 10 seconds ago that the entire market was, every big bank on the planet was doing okay, what are the use cases? Like, what fundamentally can we do with blockchain? But Michael, maybe as the market has matured, what are the best use cases that we're really seeing for blockchain in the market right now?
Yeah, so it's definitely started from some of the investment thesis around the cryptocurrencies, and especially I would say the kind of like the Bitcoin narrative of buying and holding Bitcoin. But over the last 3 and 4 years, it expanded to really using blockchain for the mainstream financial assets, right? So the idea around tokenizing different instruments, starting from basically cash or fiat, which we nowadays call it stablecoin or tokenized deposits, right? The ability to, which is essentially what PayPal is doing, and USDC and Tether and some of those use cases, they actually became somewhat of a mainstream, right? I think that if we combine USDC and Tether together, it's a market cap of about 120, I guess, $1 billion of cash. And then what is sort of like, quickly following, so once we have the cash leg solved, what is quickly following is tokenizing other financial instruments, right? So we have a good examples around different type of securities, carbon credits, what we call real world assets that are representing different assets that are now, or different sort of ownership on real world assets that is now represented on the blockchain. And then we have some of the more novel ideas around Web3 in the form of NFTs, tickets, and so on. But basically, as it goes mostly like for the financial use cases, then really tokenizing the cash, tokenizing security, tokenizing financial instruments. Those are, I think, the main areas that are currently approaching mainstream.
Yeah, and I mean, when we say, tokenizing assets, that's not a tiny little slice of financial services, or we've gone beyond kind of lovely little pictures or meowing kind of tokenized capability. Like, it really feels like we've gone beyond the tiny little proof points to your point there around tokenizing assets in a financial system. That's huge in terms of what everybody's doing as a financial organization, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the more exciting examples that we see right now that are even sort of simple examples is tokenized money market funds, right? And you can ask yourself, okay, so what's so exciting about tokenizing money market fund? It's sort of the first time that you can have an instrument that is similar to cash that not only can basically bear interest, right, as you holding it, but it's also transferable. It can be used as a settlement instrument so on. So actually, like the properties of tokenizing some of those assets, when you represent them on the blockchain, you can actually do many more things with those assets than what you were able to do in the traditional financial system, or when they were basically locked in the traditional financial system. And then, as you sort of look at all the different programmable capabilities that can be attached to it. For example, how you can do settlements without any counterparty risk and without any centralized intermediary, for example, how you can build programmable compliance to reduce the complexity of access or the fees that you need to apply in order to access those instruments. I think that the value of doing that is quite clear, and we're seeing a lot of amazing examples of asset managers that are really embracing this technology that became mature and sort of going to market with it.
Yeah, I mean it's fascinating, isn't it? It's again from a flurry of interest, maybe 7, 8 years ago, in terms of a plethora of use cases, to have seen them mature in the market, and fundamentally, as you say, billions of pounds, billions of dollars being moved into different assets by gigantic organizations around the world. I mean, this is to say mainstream is probably underservicing now, but I guess, I mean, this is great. I mean, this sounds like a lot of fun, but doing anything in financial services is difficult, right? I've kind of worked in many big organizations. They love the idea, but their ability to execute is somewhat difficult. So, I mean, Alla, you've obviously gone on a journey to implement a blockchain solution. How did that go? What was the journey?
Well, as a fintech startup, innovation obviously is in our DNA. Our journey started actually 3 years ago, more than 3 years ago, by recognizing the need for greater accessibility, transparency, and efficiency in the area of investment funds, especially for retail investors, for those who have been underserved or could not access those services because of the higher entry cost or complexity. So after researching into blockchain's potential, we understood that this is the best solution to align it with our mission. In short, our main goal was to re-engineer the traditional landscape by simplifying processes and removing the unnecessary friction, where blockchain was of a very big help, as David mentioned, you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? Your point there around actually there was a lot of organizations probably walking around with a POC from a blockchain thing that they'd done, trying to find a solution. But you've started from the problem that you're trying to solve first. Did the technology matter, or was it just the best way of achieving the outcome?
The technology, if of course we talk, the technology mattered because we choose to implement blockchain. As I said, for its main characteristics, it can help us to reduce intermediation, automatically reduce costs, automatically improve the sustainability aspect of our business, right? Because sustainability is also at our core, and I think we don't talk often enough about the benefits that link to the sustainability that blockchain brings. But here, to make it very, very clear, I talk about the proof of stake consensus mechanism, right? I feel like we don't talk enough about their advantages. So of course the technology matters, right? Because you want to align to choose which blockchain you use. It is to be aligned with your goals and what would be the end product that you have. So it was a long journey. As I said, it's almost 4 years until we made our product up and running. But indeed, it was of a very big help to make use. For now, for a small part of our process, because we operate in a hybrid format due to regulatory constraints. So we operate on-chain and off-chain, but the part of we could reduce intermediation, we made a very good use of blockchain for now. and we're looking forward to improve it in the future.
Yeah. I mean, maybe turning to you, Lisa, in this sense, I mean, businesses have got a lot going on and different, organizations have got a lot of technology debt in various different ways, but also maybe different levels of experience with different types of technology as well. So, I mean, what should businesses really sort of weigh up when it comes to deciding to implement blockchain technology? Because every IT department I've ever come across in a big bank has tried to convince me that a database can do everything more efficiently. So what do you think? How do you get them into that pros and cons piece?
Oh, look, I genuinely believe that there's a massive movement that any great company understands that technology is the way of the future. And then I think you made the point earlier about identifying the problems that you have in the business and then solving for them. In our case, we have a very diverse business. So I might just hone in on the funds management business because I think that speaks to what Michael's been talking about and Ala as well. And in that, it's really fascinating, right? Because we can build a fund that generates superior investment returns via investing in crypto. And if I manage that fund with my Fireblocks wallet or any other wallet, it's not a Fireblocks plug, then I can calculate my NAV lifetime, which is something I've never been able to do in funds management. So if you ask any funds manager what their pain point in life is, it's every month reconciling their NAV and working with all the paperwork in the back office. So there's just all these hidden benefits, and I genuinely believe that there are massive problems to solve, and within businesses we can use this technology. Look at even us as a listed company, the treasury that I'm managing and how I make payments and how I interact with clients. So much easier when I can pay an invoice in stablecoin, when I can use my treasury wallets rather than all of the bank accounts that we run and the day-to-day. So I just think that once we build the infrastructure, all businesses will be able to see that there's a use case for them. And I really do agree that creating and solving problems inside businesses all roads will lead to this. And also there is this, this is a fintech story because there are layers of the technology stack, if you like, that all companies need to look at and work out what's suitable for them because, on-chain, off-chain, we need to work out the cost effectiveness of what we're building and also the privacy issues that you have, and we can talk about some specific examples and how to manage that a little bit further down in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, it's and maybe sort of coming back to you, Michael, on this, building on what Lisa's just said, is, I mean, really, if you're going to be trying to build the future of financial services, you want to be doing it with technology from today. Many organizations are still solving problems that they created 30-odd, 40-odd years ago, right? So, but if you're really building tomorrow's financial services industry, you really want to do it with the technology that's going to last, right? So, is that the compelling argument really for blockchain in a more holistic sense?
I think that this is one of the compelling arguments, right? Definitely some of the reasons why big financial organizations are trying to or are embracing blockchain is for a technology transformation, right? But I think that if you sort of layer those, the technology stack over there, that definitely some of the challenges that are currently those organizations are facing is to really do a cloud transformation projects, right? So that's, I think, at the heart of moving from systems that are based on COBOL that were or Fortran that were written in the 70s that surprisingly or magically are still running, right? And sort of shifting those workloads into the cloud. I would say that definitely the movement into blockchain and cloud is something that goes hand in hand. And honestly, for almost all of our clients, I guess, for fintech, it's not really a question that all of our fintech clients, they're natively cloud-based and therefore they're happy to deploy the technology in the cloud. I think that as we're working with some of our sort of key banking clients, we do work with them hand in hand to first and foremost figure out how do they deploy our infrastructure and how do they basically attach to the blockchain through cloud, which is sometimes a new process for them. And as you can imagine, it is somewhat an interesting journey for their IT and cyber department. We're pretty good at doing the hand holding over there. But kind of holistically looking into that, I think that, or at least from my perspective, blockchain is sort of a much bigger just than cloud transformation or technology transformation per se on an individual client basis. I think that this is clearly making money and financial assets, and maybe even broader than that, compatible with the internet, right? And this is, I think, something that is not always intuitively understood until you actually start to experiment and you basically play with the technology with your hands. But one of the things that we actually don't fully realize is that how the old system or the legacy systems, whether this is the money movement systems like SWIFT or Visa or even ACH in the United States, how non-compatible they are with the internet, right? Why, as for an example, any one of us on this call can actually visit a website in Japan, right? And it will load at a split of a second on our browser, right? But if we would actually try to wire money to Japan, it will take us somewhere between 3 to 10 days, right, for the money to arrive in Japan for the corresponding banking system. And it will cost us, north to, I assume, $100, right? Depends on the agreements that you have with the banks, right? And honestly, the only thing that we are doing, we're actually moving a few bits from one database to a few bits in a different database, right? That's the only thing that we're doing, right? So, and the reason for that is that it's also a patch of systems that were built in the 70s, and blockchain just kind of disintermediates that entire structure, makes it compatible with the internet, makes it programmable. And clearly, if you're already embracing this new technology, you're better off doing it in a way that is future-proof, in a way that you're leveraging the technologies that are currently in use, and we will predict that they're going to be in use for the next few decades. So, I mean, it just makes sense to sort of do all things and do a whole big transformation at once.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? As I sort of said earlier on, every organization can sort of identify problems. I mean, it's the old sort of adage of customers are very good at telling you what the problem is, but they're very terrible at telling you what to do about it, right? So, how do you go from these ideas to executing it in an organization at scale? I mean, where do you really start with that? Because, I mean, Lisa, Alla, Michael, you've all sort of said, there's a name big bank at X, they're going to be, paralyzed by a core banking transformation and a cloud migration and the way in which they typically approach those things is basically spending 3 years of their life paralyzing their organization and ending up with a shiny new version of the old thing that they had before, right? And that's the real trajectory of those types of transformations. They don't really transform anything, right? So how do you sort of overcome the initial skepticism? Who really are the stakeholders in a big organization for this type of change? Is it the technology teams, or is it the people who fundamentally have the problem?
I can probably speak to this. I'm CEO of DigitalX now, but I came from National Australia Bank, and I think that the question you just asked there is no answer. I think in the beginning, there's the coalition of the willing, and inside of large organizations, you have 1 to 2, maybe 3 or 4 people who actually see the opportunity of the technology, and then you absolutely have to find the business use case. And I think in my experience I was at National Australia Bank, it was really, finding the people that the original project that we worked on was actually impact investing, which socialized the idea of blockchain investment and blockchain technology and how we could transform that. And then we had to find the big use case inside of the bank. And then we found all the people that would help us. And then you have to go through the stakeholder engagement through the entire organization, which, I think what we have now is quite amazing. Michael would probably agree that I can't think of one bank in the world that doesn't have that group of people. Whereas, if you go all the way back to 2016 or, you said 10 seconds. I was like, no, that was almost a lifetime ago for people like me who were, 10 seconds ago looking at this technology and trying to build inside of large organizations. And I think the beautiful thing now for this technology is that all of those large organizations, it's starting to become mainstream. So we can talk about mainstream moments, but really what has to happen is you need to get all of the divisions of the whole bank together, and you need to build a strategy, and that strategy needs to go up to the board needs to approve it, and then it becomes part of how the organization will innovate. And when you're talking about legacy systems, banks can't break legacy systems for a reason. It's called risk management, it's called security, and right back to Michael's first point, that cybersecurity is the key. And if you look at what's happening in Australia in particular right now, there's a big concern around crypto scams. And what that has done is the risk divisions of the banks, and I'm saying this is my role of Deputy Chair of Blockchain Australia and the visibility I have from that all of the risk areas of the banks are trying to shut down crypto, and then they're bleeding crypto into blockchain innovation where it needs to be kept separate, because you've got bookends, you've got the wholesale and the building, and then you've got what's happening in crypto and exchanges. And we need to get to the stage now where we all level up our education and see the difference between that. And crypto is beautiful, right? Crypto is the shoulders of the giants that we're standing on, because everything that's been built is really amazing. However, what happens when you build anything good that's attached to money is you do get I don't like using the word scammers. The catchphrase in Australia we have is crypto is good, scammers are bad. So I'll just say that. But you do have to deal with those elements inside large organizations like banks. And it's something that as an industry we need to work with, because you get to the point where the board may approve the strategy, but you also still need to then work through and execute the strategy. And I think that's where we are right now. I can't think of a bank in the world that doesn't have a strategy that now needs to be executed. And then I do think that brings out the risk people inside of the bank saying we need to address, the externalities that can't be controlled, which is, what's happening with the rug pulling and the FTXs of the world. And, I don't like bringing that up, but it's just a reality for those pioneers inside of banks. I've escaped, but my heart goes out to all the pioneers inside of banks who still have to deal with all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting challenge, isn't it? The bigger the bank, the bigger the target, and bad guys are pretty innovative when they need to be, aren't they, in terms of sort of trying to get access to those things.
I think Michael said something when he was in Australia was the attack vector.
Yeah, there's again, the bigger the prize. What is it? The sweeter the honey, the more flies it attracts. There's definitely something to that, isn't there? But maybe just sort of sticking to your point a second ago about the top to bottom. There's going to be a lot of people listening to this who are in big banks now, going, for the love of God, tell me like the abracadabra kind of, what is the magic words to get the board to like understand what the hell we're going on about? Because to Michael's point, they're dealing with, pressure on margins, interest rates of, suddenly a thing, core banking problems, except, there's a lot that's going on. I mean, is the difficulty with this really getting everybody's level of education to the right level? NAB, I mean, I worked with Ross McEwen a lot when he was at RBS. Ross was always very, very practical. Like if you could give him the explanation of why it would impact the business and that this is the better solution than this one, you could get momentum in things really, really well. But not every CEO of every bank I've found is like that. So is it an education process as well to get momentum, or do you think it's something broader?
I say educate. You need to find the burning platform, and then you need to find the killer use case. And in Ross's example, the killer use case we went to him with was carbon, and we were able to present that to him live. And so you've just got to get the killer use case that actually speaks to where the bank is at. And NAB had a massive net zero agenda, and we were able to present that killer use case. And then on the other side of it, there has to be the burning platform, which for a bank like National Australia Bank, the area that I was in, is carbon is one thing, but also loan and bonds and all of those big ticket items are a burning platform that are being attacked right now. And so that's how we raise the bar of getting the attention and getting the opportunity to write the strategy, right?
Sounds good. Find the problem people care about.
Yeah, if I can add to something on Lisa's points, indeed, I'm also in for the education, and I do believe we have to demystify the association of blockchain with crypto, because most of the time when we talk out there, especially with non-financial experts, when we use the word blockchain, they automatically associate it with Bitcoin or any crypto exchanges, which is not always the case, right? So in my opinion, to overcome the skepticism, we need to provide clear and tangible benefits of blockchain implementation as technology and across various industries. So I'd say sharing success stories or industry real use cases can instill confidence. It's sort of what we're doing right now here to show, okay, this is what we're doing and it works and it doesn't affect your security and actually can help you to build a more robust and safe process for your operations.
Yeah, I know. I think that makes total sense. I think it was Dave Birch who said saying Bitcoin is to do with crypto is like saying pornography is to do with the internet. It's like, yeah, like it facilitates it, but it's not the only thing it does. You know, it's not the only thing. So, Michael, on that, I mean, education's clearly a big part of this in terms of not only getting people to understand that it should do something, but really the art of the potential as well. You know, I go back to my point earlier on, really we're trying to build a different infrastructure for financial services, and getting people's head around that is really a big part of the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a big part of the challenge. And I think that, to Lisa's earlier point, I think that you have to go, if you're dealing with banks and you're dealing with, I would say, more of the legacy players, you definitely need to go to the business and essentially find a way to articulate a business case and probably start pulling it from there. But I also think that there is a lot of room to actually go through the fintech route, where I think that, generally speaking, you have people that are much more, in many cases, much more either forward thinking, or they are more capable of taking some residual risks for really leveraging better technology and kind of getting a leg up on either the competitors or some incumbents, right? And honestly, sometimes there is a room for the combination of the two. But specifically, when we deal with groups that are not intimately familiar with the technology itself, or they are not kind of a pure play startup that was built to specifically deal or build on top of blockchain, then educating them on the potential, educating them about what are the new business models that can be applied using blockchain technology is, I would say, something that we spend a decent amount of time and money. We actually have a whole group that we call business solutions, that what they do is that they engage with middle management and senior executives, and they help them to learn about the technology, build a business case. We also, I think the advantage that we do have as Fireblocks is the fact that we power more than 1,500 businesses globally, right, that are working with crypto and blockchain, and they actually coming from all different directions, and they solving or building across many different financial and non-financial products. So that intelligence and then information sharing is specifically telling people what's working, what's not working, is something that had played a pretty big differentiator for us, and also a very important thing for our clients in terms of what they can leverage. And eventually I think what we actually do well is that we can basically go full circle, and on the back end of it, because of the Fireblocks network, many times we can actually match someone that build a product and is now going to market, and now they need counterparties to either distribute to or do market making or be another participant in the ecosystem that they're trying to form. And the uniqueness of the Fireblocks network is that we are able to help in matchmaking, right, and bring those people together.
Yeah. It is as you say, the trust of having seen success of things in other places. It really builds momentum for big organizations in that way, doesn't it? But got loads more to unpack on this one. We're going to take a little quick break, and we'll be back with you very shortly, though.
Hello and welcome,
LFG people,
to
Fintech Insider,
Blockchain Insider,
11FS Spotlight,
11FS Explores,
Open Mic Night,
After Dark. Through our podcasts, videos, newsletters, and live events, we have a direct line to a truly global fintech community. So if you're looking to sponsor and collaborate on content that connects with everybody from fintech beginners to the biggest VCs, then chat to our team at sponsors@11fs.com or visit 11fs.com to find out more.
Long live the community.
All right, so maybe if we've had a look at the solution and setting it up, maybe if we look a little bit further ahead in terms of launching products that are underpinned by blockchain technology. I mean, it's an interesting one. Obviously, there's a huge community globally around the uses of blockchain, but I wonder whether actually the need for the blockchain part of it to really manifest itself in the experience is really necessary or not, or even the fact whether it really matters. You know, I mean, I'm not sure whether I really care about how my car's engine works. I just really care the fact that I can actually drive the thing to where I need to get to. So, I mean, Alla, in your experience, I mean, you must attract different types of customers, those that really care about blockchain and then those that really don't.
Yes, indeed. We are addressing two types of clients. We are directed to B2B and to B2C. If we talk about the retail, so the B2C side, even there is a certification. There are people that are tech savvy. They really care about the technology behind. But in general, I can dare to say that for a general user, they couldn't care less about what is the technology behind, as long as we can offer them a good solution, which is accessible, which is faster, which is safe, is secure for their transactions, and which is cheaper, right? So I would say for the B2C component, as long as they have a good solution in place and the user experience, it is a good one, they couldn't care less which type of technology you use. Of course, for the tech savvies, it's very important, and they would care which type of blockchain do you use, which consensus mechanism you use, and so on and so forth. But when we talk about the asset management side, because the B2C component we talk about asset managers, those that would list their investment funds in our platform, they do care, or if they don't care, they should care about it, because the benefits of blockchain technology are very tangible and they have a direct impact on their operations, right? It is a huge reduction of intermediaries, an immense reduction of workflow, resources, paperwork, time involved. So for them, it is a significant impact in the way they run the operations and how they could benefit by implementing blockchain or using providers which will help them with the promoting and distribution of their product, such as our platform, for example.
I mean, Lisa, maybe same point to you. I mean, have you found the blockchain element of products in some instances, you know, customers just don't care. It's not what they're looking to achieve. But equally, though, in this early stages, and to a point, decade in, we're still in the early stages, aren't we? There's huge communities around, very passionate about using blockchain in extreme ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So in the funds business, we run two of the funds that we run are simply traditional structured managed investment schemes that offer superior investment returns by either investing in Bitcoin or crypto. And honestly, investors give you money to invest if you make them money. And that's why we have those investors in that fund. And that's, a different type of investor. And then in the real world asset tokenization fund, there is this win-win that you can get through everything that Ala just said about all of the reduced costs. And then there's this transparency around the risk, and investment is risk reward. And then there's this new type of investor that's coming in and saying, oh, I get it. I see that the risk reward profile is altered, and I can make a greater risk return profile and a greater return, therefore, by investing in this product. And I think that you don't need to talk about blockchain to talk about Finance Geek, but we do have these sort of new savvy investors that are coming in and seeing that. And then I think the future really is not talking about the technology at all and building track records in these investment opportunities and the access and the channels that we can build. And, then I would talk about the other business that we have, which is a single share sale business called Sell My Shares. And then the future I see for that really is, without these clients knowing, we will transform them from Web 2 to Web 3 because they won't even know that yesterday they were transacting Web 2 and tomorrow they'll be transacting Web 3. And all it will be a box that they tick, which is, would you like to, we're already doing to prototype this is T0 settlement. Do you want to settle T0? Yes. Okay, so we've got like quite a large percentage of clients will choose that and pay a higher fee, by the way. And then do you want T0? And for a lower fee, it can go straight into a stable coin in your wallet. We don't even need to say that. It's like, do you want to do T0 for a lower fee? Tick, they'll do that all day, every day. And then it'll go into their wallet. And I think that's the world we're moving into, where, we're not talking about the technology. All the work we'll be doing is sort of behind the scenes, but we're not quite there yet. And where we are now is educating, talking about it, and bringing in these new systems and processes using the technology. And, I think every business will have different use cases and conversations. And Michael's probably at the forefront of all of that, because as he said, with that network effect that Fireblocks have, is joining all of the clients together. Because think of our investment fund, I need all of the Fireblocks clients who want to use the technology to issue bonds or loans or whatever. So we've got something to invest in to prove what I was talking about earlier. So it's this big ecosystem that we need to create.
Yeah. And that word ecosystem is a good one, Michael, there as well, isn't it? Because as you say, as Lisa says, there's a lot of different parties within that ecosystem that really make it operate. But I mean, do you agree with her point though, that actually almost the technology becomes secondary? It's always the problem you're solving for a customer. That's the most critical thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree that, to use blockchain for the sake of blockchain, maybe it resonates with, certain participants that are very enthusiastic, and they are almost, I think, religious about some of the properties that blockchain brings, like, non-custodial setups and the ownership and things like that, right? But I would actually say that, most users right now, I guess, globally, they're not sophisticated enough or financially sophisticated enough to actually understand those concepts to the degree where, they will be willing to assume responsibilities, or they will be willing to assume the technological complexity where you actually need to almost like, approach or interact with the blockchain at the lowest level, right? I think that where things come to actually sort of provide value is through fintech organizations like the one that Lisa and I are running, where you are essentially, revolutionizing or providing new experience, or an experience that might already exist, but exist in somewhat of a crappy way, right? So you're actually leveraging the fact that it's cheap, that it's fast, that you can actually disintermediate a lot of different parties, that you can create transactions in real time that are actually moving between different geographies, that you can increase distribution, that you can make things so streamlined that you can increase the population and make it much more inclusive, right? So there are all those properties that are inherent to when you actually using blockchain technologies, and it's very difficult to do that in a very different way, right? Or it will be very expensive, or you will actually need to rely on a lot of intermediaries to accomplish that, and then you just basically bring a much better or new product to the market, right? So, and that's, I think, what ultimately people care about, and I think that in order to do that, to be honest, we need the pioneers, right, that are here on the call, that are really understand how do you take the technology and you create a better financial experience that what is currently available through the incumbents or from the legacy systems, and they're building the use cases and putting all the energy to troubleshoot them. And I think that once that becomes a standard and people get accustomed to that, then it sort of propagates, and they are sort of expecting that from any other provider they have, right? So I can give a very simple example to how we started to operate as a business, and it's a true story, but I think it's just basically a very real story of how we started accepting and at some point basically preferring to be paid in stable coins for what we are invoicing. So, 4 years ago, we had a client that wanted to. We were back in the days. We would just basically send people an invoice in dollars, and they would pay us usually with a wire or with. Sometimes people will actually send us checks, which was surprising because we are in the crypto blockchain space. People will still send you a check, and we also had a Stripe account for very small payments, right? So that at some point we had a client that came to us and say hey, I want to pay you an invoice of let's say $30,000, but I want to pay it in a credit card. And one of our sales lady asked me if we can process it in a credit card. And I told her no way, because I'm not going to pay $1,000 commission, right? Because they're charging 3% for for processing a wire. And then I asked them hey, ask them if they can send us it in a stable coin. So they sent us it in, I believe back in the days it was in USDC. It took less than 50 seconds to get into our wallet, and it cost 5 cents to settle. And from that point, nowadays, about, I think north than 50% of our clients are actually paying us in stable coins, their invoices, and we're processing millions of dollars per year of invoices in stable coins. And it's so much better that I actually don't see myself using any other solution for collecting payments rather than stablecoin, right? So I think those are kind of the experiences that it's almost this kind of door that once you go through, there is no way for you to go back to the old world.
Oh, absolutely. I might share.
Yeah, it feels like a real sort of Neo seeing the Matrix moment in very often for people who sort of step through that glass, isn't it? But and I guess to that point, and Michael, you, Lisa, Alla, as you said, it sort of takes the innovators, you guys, building businesses, showing the sort of opportunities, the success that it can bring, to really get the momentum in other people feeling comfortable to kind of step into that territory. But maybe if I think we could probably go for another 7 hours on this topic with each of you, just because I think there's so much to kind of unpack on it. But we're going to have to wrap up. We're going to have to kind of close down. Just in one sentence, why use blockchain now? Lisa, start with you. Why use blockchain today?
The time is now, and it's cheaper, smarter, faster. And I can't think of one business use case in finance where it's not. Michael just gave the perfect example. Whether you're running a fund or I look at the admin of our business, why would I do anything other than pay in stablecoin or crypto when it's so much easier? And the time is now. So I think that everybody should be looking at use cases. And I think if you found a finance problem that you can't solve, you probably find the answer in blockchain. And I think that it'll just be like the internet was in 1994 when I started working. It was quite unusual to understand the internet then, and look at where we are today. And I think that is what we'll be saying in 10 years' time. And I think one of our catchphrases is doing the next now. And I think everybody should be looking at that.
Very good. Ala, what do you think? Why use blockchain now?
From my point of view, persisting with blockchain is worth the effort due to its unique combination of security, transparency, efficiency, and my favorite one, sustainability. I think we need to rethink and redesign most of the old ways of doing business if we want to remain relevant on the market in the coming 5-10 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? It wasn't long ago there was some bloke with a big book called The Ledger, and that was banking, right? And actually this sort of digitized world we live in, people have just took that mentality into an IT system, and it's not really necessarily fit for the world that we want to create. But Michael, we'll give the last word to you. Why use blockchain now?
Simply because if you are starting something new now, then it's an opportunity for you to disintermediate someone. And if you are an incumbent, then if you're not going to use blockchain now, then someone else is going to disintermediate you, right? So I think that it's clearly right now an arms race. And I think that anyone who doesn't have a strategy or is actually early, by the time that he will figure out the technology, potentially his kind of market position will be taken by someone else.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I mean, there's two strategies, right? You're either playing defense or offense, and I know which one I'd always prefer to be on. So on that note, that probably wraps up the discussion today. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people learn a little bit more about you and your companies? Lisa, starting with you.
Oh, we're listed. So DCC space AU on Bloomberg is our code. And I'm on LinkedIn. So look me up on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter, but I think that now Twitter's called X. Just look me up on LinkedIn.
Very good. Ala.
I invite you to check us on moniflo.com. There we also have the link, and you can find our app in App Store and Google Play if you want to try it. And of course, follow us on all the social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook. We're all there. And me personally on LinkedIn. So very happy to connect with anyone who wants to share great ideas. And thank you very much for having me here. Once again, big thank you, David, and to your team.
No problem at all. Michael, where can people learn a little bit more about you and your company?
Fireblocks.com. That's the easiest to learn more about Fireblocks and get access to our product. And I'm also mostly active on LinkedIn. So Michael Shaulov on LinkedIn.
Very good. As all of the other panel, I'm predominantly lurking on LinkedIn these days, so happy to connect with anybody there. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you've heard, follow the podcast, and don't forget to leave us a review. It super duper helps other people find the show. As always, if you want to join the conversation, find us on social media. Just search for 11FS or Fintech Insider, or if you really want to, you can email us on podcasts@11fs.com. Thank you so much for listening, guys. See you soon. Goodbye.